Avengers! Assemble.
Hello everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. We are looking at Aliens vs. Avengers, number 3. It is written by Jonathan Hickman, who I think is an incredible writer, and drawn by Esad, I think it's Ribic. I really don't know how to pronounce it correctly. And so this is the first cover with Miles Morales in there fighting the aliens. Ribic's art is absolutely incredible. He's the one, this is one of the variant covers. He's the one that did the second Secret Wars. And then another variant here. And then another. Marvel loves their variants. That's for sure. So, yet another universe, yet another time. So, we start out with the engineers. There's not a lot of words in this, but there. If you're familiar with the Alien movies and the Prometheus and what's the sequel to Prometheus? I forgot. You're familiar with the spores that they drop in. So, they're speaking their alien tongue, putting on their suits. This guy looks like played the Green Goblin on the Spider. Willem Dafoe. Oh, for the most part. So he sort of looks like Willem Dafoe. At least that's who. It's probably not, but it's just who it reminded me of. So, all right, we continue here. You can see that they took these robots down, or the androids, or the synthetics, or the whatever. I don't think I've ever seen Ribic's art inked. I'm sure he's inked himself, but so here is the credits. And so we are now in Mars. I have the first two. Feel free to check them out. And so still haven't heard anything. No, Captain. We've been pinging them on every known channel. No response. Sorry, that was Carol Danvers. Could be something simple. Maybe a solar flare knocked out their comms. And then Tony Stark says, "Does it feel like we're living in simple times, Carol?" And she says, "No, it does not." And Tony says, "And now we go from bad to worse. What about the damage we sustained at the ship on liftoff, Lieutenant?" And the lieutenant says, "No getting around it, Mr. Stark. Our escape from Earth came at a high cost. One of the platform moorings collapsed and damaged our expansion drives beyond repair." And Carol says, "Meaning?" And Tony explains, "Meaning that if we don't want this to become a generation ship, something we're not equipped for, we're going to have to set down and barter or borrow mutant tech to replace it, regardless of what's going on down there or whether they like it or not." And then Spider-Man says, "So, out of the frying pan into the fire." And Carol says, "Like the man said, Miles, from bad to worse. Lieutenant, take us down." And so here they go. Beautiful art. So this book, because of how detailed Ribic's art is. It's very slow. It took, I think, 2.5 months for issue 3 to come out, and then it took the next issue doesn't come out till May, which is about another 2.5 months. I always say that on things like this, just wait till it's all done and then release it, one at a time. There's just no sense in making people wait so long. Just, there's no rush. Just have the issues ready to go so that you can release them monthly. I just believe that it's best, because most people may forget and not even pick up anything past it. So if you want people to pick them up each month, then by all means release it on a monthly schedule. And it's just a belief that I have. So, all right. And Captain Marvel asks, "When's the last time you were here, Tony?" And Tony says, "Around 20 years ago, personal reasons. You?" And she says, "7 years ago, all business. It was the busiest spaceport I'd ever seen." And Spider Man says, "I've got a bad feeling about this." And Captain Marvel says, "Well, nothing we can do about it in here. I'm going to go check things out." And Spider Man says, "Yeah, because the sooner we get this over with, the sooner we can leave." And Iron Man says, "I'm coming as well." And Miles says, "No offense, but you're in a chair, old man. Not the best choice for a smash and grab." And Iron Man says, "One, I'm the person best equipped to find the technology we need. And two, it's not just a chair." And you see the buzz buzz. And you can see it becoming the armor. And so he says, "It's a suit. Love the coloring. Love this." And you can see Miles kind of pulling off his mask here. And he goes, "I can see that now." And so Captain Marvel says, "After you, Mr. Stark." Love the surprised look. So, Bar Sinister. And so, we got a bunch of Mr. Sinisters here, so it's a bit confusing with this part here. You know what we have here, don't you? It's undeniable. It's unrefutable. It's. And one Sinister says, "Well, go on." The other one says, "Yes, don't keep us waiting." And this one says, "It's glorious. It's perfection." And they're looking at one of the face huggers. "We've spent our entire lives, whatever. We've spent all that time seeking out the best genetic end of not just what we are, but what we can be. And in this, we have finally found our answer. This creature is the starting point of a universal extinction machine, which also, quite perfectly, a historical container for the genetic remnants of each of its hosts. Yes, it is your end, but it's also your forever. And most of all, the ideal representation of all we have learned about a society. We are born in pain, consume everything, and leave nothing but annihilation in our wake." And I'm not familiar which of all the X-Men these are here, but this is Colossus. He's the only one I really recognize. I think this might be Cyclops, maybe, possibly. And this does look like Wolverine, but it's not. How do I know that? Well, we'll just have to read on, which tells you why. And so this one says, "Brothers, the point is not what that we have embraced this glorious species. It's that we have to revel in it. Who is with me? Who is?" And now so this other one comes in, Mr. Sinister, Mrs. Sinister calling in. And this one was like, "Oh, he's not going to like this." His speech being so badly interrupted. It was going so well. Of course it was. It's also our nature. All we do is monologue. And so this one says, "This better be important. What is it?" And he says, "A ship touched down at the spaceport. It's huge, massive, A people mover to the stars, Mr. Sinister. We have visitors. So, love that face, kind of. Um, I've been noticing that Esad Ribic has um, is kind of doing a little bit of cartoony faces in some of them. So I'm a big fan of his. I have a lot of his work. Spider-Man says this place creeps me out, and Captain Marvel says it's so quiet, too quiet. As they're walking down, and Iron Man says, "There, I'm picking up something. Heat and movement near the city square." And he looks to his little compass energy thing, and he says, "Let's go." And so off they go, and Spider-Man runs, and Iron Man says, "Oh no." And here we have Mr. Sinister, and Iron Man says, "Where is everyone? What have you done?" And Mr. Sinister says, "Tisk." Normally, I'd be offended by the implication, but there's no denying it. These dirty hands, um, there's no denying these dirty hands, is there? For so long as we believe that mutants were the singular dominant species in the solar system, how wrong were we? And how unforgiving the lesson of extinction was. And Spider-Man shows up. Are you the only one that survived? And he says, "I am not." "Then where is everyone?" he asks. "Well, interesting that you should ask." And so now we go to the ship, and the other Sinisters are there walking through, and these people see him, and this one yells out, "Look." And this Sinister says, "Visitors to our humble mutant planet, we welcome you with open arms and come bearing gifts." And he says, "Do you know what this is?" And this guy says, "No." And he shoots, and he says, "It's a gun, human, a gun that shoots face huggers." And you can see woof, woof, and hitting these people here. "I'm getting an alert from the ship. It's a coded distress. What should?" And Iron Man says, "Patching in now." And they see this guy here with the face hugger. And Carol says, "Oh my God. How?" And of course they see the Sinister shooting, and Iron Man says, "How could you do this?" And he says, "Oh, I did what I always do. I adapt, I overcome, I conquer evolution, I defeat Darwin, and I just can't help myself. I always side with the winners." And you can see the aliens coming through here. He's surrounded by them. Pretty freaking cool. And so Iron Man blasts this one, push them back enough for us to get clear of the square. Make for the ship. We need to. And then he kind of yells out, "Herc," as you can see Carol Danvers and Spider-Man moving along here. There's something about just penciled with the pencils being colored that I really like. Tony's in trouble, and so he's struggling to get that alien off him. "I'm on it. I'll get Stark. You try to get to the ship," says Spider-Man. "No, they'll just swarm and pick us off. We need to stick together." "Okay." And so he says, "We'll be right back." And so you can see this one hissing at Carol. Now that the aliens are part of Disney, I think the aliens should just replace the Brood. The Brood, after all, were oh, and look at the acid hitting on her face as she shot it. So the Brood were supposed to be sort of like aliens. So might as well use the real thing. And she says, "What?" and sees these kind of circle, and then it goes black, and then she opens her eyes and sees the White Queen. She's, I think, in her diamond form, and then Armor, who's one of the newer mutants. And the White Queen asks, "Is she alive?" And then Wolverine says, "Yeah, This one's never had an ounce of quit in her, and of course she recognizes him, says Logan, and he says, "Hang on, Carol, we're getting you out of here." "What about the others? They're gone. We're leaving." "No," and Wolverine says, "We're leaving." And so this here is Manifold, and he says, "She's waking up. Don't touch it. I did everything I could, but it's not good." And so you can see Carol's been bandaged up here. And Captain Marvel says, "I'm breathing, Manifold. It's good enough. Where are we? Where are the others?" And the White Queen says, "We're about 50 clicks from the spaceport you landed at. We caught a glimpse of Spider-Man and Stark before they were overrun. About an hour later, we escaped with you. The ship you came in went up in a fireball. There are no others, Captain. You are looking at the sole human and mutant survivors on Mars." And so here you can see Wolverine and Captain Marvel says, "You're forgetting Sinister. Why didn't they kill him?" And Armor says, "The White Queen originally suspected he'd once again manipulated his genetic code. A few days ago, I tore one and a half. Sorry, a few days ago, I tore one in half and discovered that he's carrying one of their eggs around his chest. I think he somehow messed with the incubation cycle, prolonged it. But that's just a guess. If you want to know more, you'll have to ask one of the Sinisters yourself." And Captain Marvel says, "Is she right?" And the White Queen says, "Armor's theory is as yet unproven, but it makes sense." And Captain Marvel says, "Okay, well, thanks for the rescue and for patching me up, but I'm headed back in. I have to know if Tony is dead, and I have to know what happened to the others. If there's a chance anyone is still alive, I have to go." And Wolverine says, "You don't know what you're facing, Carol. They don't stop. They can't. It's what they are. It's what they exist to do." Oopsie. Myself, Armor, and Emma can't be harmed by these things. Eden is sitting inside his manifold when we travel, so he can't be touched. But you can be. Stay here. Let us protect you." "You don't understand," Logan says, Captain Marvel, and he points at her here, pretty cool. "No, you don't. But I do. You see, one killing machine recognizes another. That is death out there." And she kind of silent for a moment and says, "My whole life I told myself I would never leave anyone behind. It was my code. But a week ago, escaping Earth, I did. I watched him be brave while I was reduced to being pragmatic. I left him behind, and I'll never do it again. Do you understand now?" And Wolverine now is a little quiet and says, "I'll come with." Love this art. I really, really, really um, like Esad. And so it says here the next day, and so Manifold is creating these little things here, and he sees the ship destroyed. "Damn it," says Carol, and Wolverine says, "Let's keep looking." And he goes sniff, sniff, looking at stuff, and this he says, "Carol." And they look down, and she says, "No." And we get the reveal of Tony Stark, and you can see that the alien came from his chest. You can see the dead face hugger here. And she cries, "Oh, Tony, you deserve better than this. We all do." They all just silently look down on him. And suddenly they look up and go, "Huh? What is that?" And you see these ships here. And Carol says, "Wakanda has returned, to be continued." So, Aliens versus Avengers 03. They came out this year, so 2025. I like this story. I have, like I said, I have 1 and 2 on the channel. Feel free to watch those videos if you would like. I really like the story, and I love this art. This art is absolutely exquisite, and I love it. Like and subscribe, and I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.